My husband left me alone at 9 months pregnant to attend his sister's extravagant wedding, so I exposed her lies and ruined her relationship. My name's Lisa, and I'm 35 years old. My husband, Andrew, ditched me to go to his sister's big, fancy wedding when I was 9 months pregnant with our second kid. That whole mess ended up torching my relationship with his sister, and I called her out on all the nonsense she'd been spinning. Andrew's 39, and we've been married for 7 years. We've got a little girl, Sarah, who's 5, and right now, I'm 7 months along with our next one. I'm laying this all out because I need to vent to somebody, and there's nothing better than spilling your guts without anyone knowing it's me. Andrew's always been real attached to his family. When we were dating, I didn't think much of it. His folks seemed friendly enough, always smiling and saying nice things whenever I saw them. But after we got hitched, it hit me how tight he was with his mom and sister. It was like they had their own little crew, always hanging out together. Now, that didn't mess with me and Andrew as a couple, so I just shrugged it off when they teamed up. They weren't coming after me, so I let it slide. At family get-togethers or parties, you'd find them parked in a corner, picking apart everybody else. They tried pulling me into their gossip game early on, but I'm not big on chit-chat like that, so I kept my distance. They didn't hassle me, and I didn't hassle them. His mother and sister weren't exactly warm with me, they kept their space, and I was fine keeping mine too. I've never been one to trash people behind their backs and then play nice to their faces. Things shifted when I got pregnant with Sarah. I quit going over to their house after that. Part of me was looking for an excuse to steer clear, and honestly, his mother and sister were just plain nasty. Andrew's a good guy, soft-spoken and decent, but something weird happened whenever he got around those two. It was like he turned into somebody else entirely. As long as he stayed polite with me at home, I didn't care what he was up to during the couple hours he spent with them on weekends. I figured he could have that time. But when Sarah turned 3, his family started whispering garbage in her ear, telling her, "Your mom's no good." She didn't buy it, though she cried and told them, "My mom's the best." Then she ran home and spilled it all to me. Andrew just chuckled when I brought it up, saying they were probably just messing with her, but I saw right through that. I knew what they were trying to pull. After that, I made darn sure Sarah was never alone with those two. Everything took a turn for the worse last year when his sister started going out with some rich guy from Scotland. Sure, I get why she was thrilled hooking a big fish like that, but what got me scratching my head was how pumped Andrew was about it. Let me give you the rundown on his folks. His dad's retired, living out in the country in an old family farmhouse. I've only met him a few times, he's a straight shooter, not like the rest of them. Maybe that's why he moved out there, just to get some quiet. His mom and sister don't work, they get by on rent from one of his dad's properties and whatever cash he sends their way. Andrew chips in too, sending his mom part of his paycheck every month. I've always handled my own money, so I don't care if he wants to help her out. Anyway, once his sister started dating this wealthy dude, she turned into a whole different person, and not in a good way. She acted like she was royalty or something, always showing off the pricey stuff her boyfriend got her whenever we were at a family thing or some event. She never missed a chance to brag about how loaded he was. And here's the kicker, his mom got all giddy about it too. They'd sit there laughing like a couple of schoolgirls. It drove me up the wall, and I'm sure they could tell I wasn't amused. I wasn't jealous, why would I be? It's just that before this guy came along, his mom and sister didn't have much to throw around, so they never tried to act better than me. But now, with her new hotshot boyfriend, they started dropping little hints, making me feel small, like I was green with envy. They didn't say it outright, but I could feel it in how they carried themselves. Some cousins even told me they'd picked up on it too. Then I got pregnant again, and thank goodness, it gave me a solid reason to skip their place. Andrew kept pushing me to let Sarah go over there by herself, but she wouldn't have it. She's only 5, but she's got no interest in being around them. Some folks might say I turned her against them, but I'll tell you straight, kids can spot real love from fake a mile away, they don't need me to spell it out. My first pregnancy was rough, I had to stay in bed a lot, but his family never once came by to see how I was holding up. This second one's been easier, but now they show up all the time. Not to check on me, though, they're just here to parade around their new shiny necklaces, fancy dresses, or some bag that costs a fortune. His sister would ramble on about her boyfriend's money and their plans for a huge wedding in Scotland. I'd just nod, fake a smile, and mutter to myself, well, good for you. About a week back, his mom and sister popped by out of nowhere. They started going on about how great my cooking is. His sister said she couldn't get over the apple pie and bacon donuts I'd made way back when. I didn't feel flattered, I got wary. I asked them why they were bringing up stuff I cooked years ago. They seemed thrown off that I didn't just lap up the praise and instead cut to the chase. His sister said she'd been dying for apple pie lately, and no place she tried could match mine, so they wanted me to whip some up. I said thanks but told them I wasn't feeling good, baking's a lot of work, and with a toddler in this pregnancy, I couldn't swing it. They wouldn't let it go, kept pressing me to do it. I didn't have the energy to argue, so I said I'd give it a shot when I felt better. His sister hugged me first time since the wedding and said she needed it by Sunday. I didn't push back or ask why Sunday. Truth is, I had no plans to make it, I just said that to get them off my back. That week dragged on, and between being pregnant and chasing Sarah around, I forgot all about it. Then Friday night at dinner, Andrew dropped a bomb. He'd be tied up all weekend because his sister's boyfriend and his family were coming over for dinner on Sunday. It hit me like a ton of bricks. That's why they'd been buttering me up, asking for pie, and wanting it Sunday. I'm not bragging, but my apple pie's top-notch, best you'll ever taste, but I wasn't about to fall for their scheme. I told Andrew about his mom and sister stopping by and what they'd asked for. He said the boyfriend and his Scottish folks love sweets, heard all about American apple pie, and wanted the real deal. He let slip that his sister had been talking herself up, saying she could make the best pie ever and promised it for their dinner. I pointed out I wasn't even invited, and no way was I busting my back in this shape just so she could take the credit. He said since I'm 7 months pregnant, his mom figured I'd be uneasy around strangers, so they didn't ask me to come. Even if that was true, which I doubt, why didn't they mention the dinner when they were here begging for dessert? Andrew just shrugged and said he didn't have a clue. Saturday rolled around, and Andrew took off to get his dad, saying he'd be back Sunday night after the dinner. I wanted to blow up at him, but I held it in for my own sanity. Nothing I said was gonna stop him from going. Sunday, I turned my phone off and locked myself in my room with Sarah. I figured his mom and sister tried calling, and when they couldn't get me, they left a message on the house phone. I didn't bother checking that either. I wasn't exactly calm, knowing they'd be mad I didn't come through, but I felt good sticking to my guns. Monday morning, I turned my phone back on, and it was a flood, missed calls, voicemails, you name it. Started with them asking nice, ended with them cussing me out. The second they saw I'd gotten their messages, his mom called. Man, she went on forever. I'd always known she was two-faced, but that day, she let loose with some ugly words. She blamed me for wrecking their dinner, called me all kinds of names. Turns out they were counting on my pie, didn't bother getting anything else, because his sister wanted to pass it off as hers to wow her boyfriend's family. So when the Scots, who love their desserts, didn't get any, they left disappointed, and somehow that's my fault. While she was yelling, I just pictured them all sitting there, looking dumb. I thought, if it wasn't such a big deal, why didn't they just grab something from a shop? Sure, his sister hyped herself up, but a store-bought pie could have saved their night. Not my circus, not my monkeys, I told her that and hung up. On top of all those calls and messages from his mother and sister, I got one late that night from Andrew. He said he wasn't coming home, said he'd be back Monday after work. When he finally walked through the door that evening, he didn't say much, didn't seem mad either. I started telling him about the earful his mom gave me, but he shut me down quick. Told me he didn't want to get mixed up in it. Then he said I ought to be grateful he wasn't chewing me out for making his family look bad the night before, and not to expect him to stick up for me against whatever his mom and sister threw my way. That set me off. I could brush off their nonsense because I knew they were rotten, but what was Andrew's deal? He should have had my back when they left me out of that dinner. How am I the one who messed things up when they didn't even invite me? Since then, we haven't talked. Neither of us has tried to patch things up. In my head, I'm ready to wash my hands of them, but part of me keeps wondering if I really did tank their reputation by saying no to their dessert scheme. I don't know, folks. Update 1. Hey everyone, it's been 2 months since I first told you all this. I'm at 40 weeks now, any day from popping this baby out. Looking back after that whole fiasco, I figured I'd been way too easy on Andrew. Couple weeks after it happened, I had a doctor's appointment for a scan, and he came along. On the drive home, I tried bringing it up, but he told me to let it go and just worry about staying healthy. He was acting normal by then, so I took it as a good sign he wasn't holding it against me. Still, something about him felt off, like he was hiding stuff. Then this morning, I woke up and saw him shoving clothes into a bag. He was trying to cram his wedding suit in there, and I just about lost it. I yelled, asking what he was up to. He said he was heading to Scotland for his sister's wedding. I couldn't even speak at first. When did this get planned? Why didn't he tell me? And how could he take off when I'm due tomorrow? I hit him with all those questions, but he dodged them, mumbling short answers. I told him he couldn't just brush me off like that. I was mad, crushed, confused, all of it at once. Can you picture your husband bailing on you and your 5-year-old when you're about to give birth? I can't even put it into words. I wasn't calm. I grabbed his shoulder, shook him, demanded a real answer. He said it was a last-minute thing, that his sister's fiancé's family picked this date, and he had no choice. Sure he did, he could have stayed. Right in the middle of that, the doorbell went off. Andrew bolted to open it like he knew who it was. His mom stormed in, hollering at him for being slow. She grabbed his bags, hauled them out of the room, and said he didn't need to finish packing, they'd buy whatever he was missing in Scotland. That line felt like a jab at me. I wanted to knock that smug look off her face. When she grinned at me, I knew there was no stopping him, no point in fighting. I stormed back to my room, chucked the rest of his junk out into the living room, and locked the door. I could hear her yelling curses at me as they left. It clicked then Andrew had been sneaky for weeks, and I thought he was just stuck between me and them. I was hurting bad, inside and out, crying so hard I could barely breathe. The noise woke Sarah up. She came over, wrapped her little arms around me, and said I'd be okay, that we should be happy because the baby was coming soon. That sweet girl warmed my heart, and I hugged her tight. We stayed in bed all day, playing, trying to keep my mind off things. But no matter what, I couldn't shake that Andrew had left me high and dry like this. I kept falling apart. I called my sister to come stay with me tomorrow since I don't know when this baby's coming. I had to tell you all this today, it's eating me up. Hope I have a safe, easy delivery. Update 2, hey folks, I know it's been a while, months since I last checked in. First off, I've got a baby boy now, and I'm so thankful for that. Here's what went down. That day, right after I posted, I opened Facebook and saw Andrew putting out pictures, him and his family having a blast in Scotland. I couldn't hold it together and just broke down. It was late, past midnight, and Sarah was out cold. I went to the bathroom and let it all pour out. I'd been keeping it in all day for her sake. I sobbed for nearly an hour, almost passed out, and then I felt it, my water broke. I dragged myself to the living room and called an ambulance. Everything after that's a blur. Next thing I knew, I was in the ambulance, heading to the hospital. When I came to, I was screaming for Sarah. The nurse told me they found her crying next to me while I was fading in and out. Since no one else was home, they brought her along. She was up front with the driver, poor thing. I was so relieved she was safe. Minutes after we got to the hospital, my boy was born. The nurse said they tried reaching Andrew, but his phone was off. My sister showed up early that morning. She lives 120 miles away. When she heard what happened, she laid into me for not calling sooner. I'd figured I had another day. She told me to ditch Andrew fast. The hospital folks saw me in that state and called the cops. The police asked if Andrew had hurt me physically, thinking he'd left me like that on purpose. I told them the truth, no bruises, but he'd torn me up mentally and emotionally. They charged him with negligence, and they weren't wrong. It put me, Sarah, and the baby in danger. I still get shivers thinking what could have happened if I hadn't gotten that ambulance in time. Thank God we're all okay. They let me out 2 days later. By then, my parents had come. They lived 2,500 miles away. They were dead set on taking Andrew and his family to court for putting me through hell while I was pregnant. They packed up my things from the house while I was still laid up. I didn't want to stick with Andrew anymore. Who would after that? Once I was out, I went back to my hometown with my folks and sister. About a week after the baby came, Andrew finally showed up at home. From his Facebook, it looked like they'd stayed in Scotland after the wedding to sightsee. I couldn't believe how carefree he was, not a worry in the world, while I was due any minute. He never called or texted me that whole time. I didn't reach out either. I was already planning to turn his world upside down. When he got back, the house was empty, and he found divorce papers and police charges waiting. He had 7 days to explain himself to the cops. He freaked out, called me 100 times. I won't lie, it felt good seeing him panic, leaving all those begging voicemails. Then his mom started calling, pleading with me to talk. I told my parents, and they called Andrew, told him to come to our place. He flew out that same day with his mother. My folks tore into them for how they treated me, said they'd make their lives miserable. Andrew wanted to talk to me alone. He begged for forgiveness, said we could work it out, tried guilting me by saying the kids need a dad and I shouldn't take that away. I asked him if he even knew the baby's gender. He went quiet. My son was a week old, and he didn't even know he'd been born. Does that sound like a father kids need? His mom begged too, said the legal mess would ruin their image with his sister's new in-laws. I laughed in her face. When they were told to leave, they demanded to see the baby, but I wouldn't let them near my kids. My dad ran them off. While that was going on, I messaged his sister's new husband online. We'd never met, so I told him who I was. Turns out he'd had his doubts about Andrew and them keeping me out of the dinner and wedding, blaming it on my pregnancy. I laid out everything that happened. He said it shocked him to see Andrew kicking back at the wedding while I was in labor. Too late to change it, but he asked about his wife Andrew's sister. I gave him the real story, including that apple pie stunt. He said their actions seemed sketchy, and it all added up now. She'd told him she was a chef, and his mom backed her up, claiming they had a bunch of restaurants out in the country. I told him she couldn't cook an egg. He called her a gold digger and said he'd keep it between us. I said I didn't care if he told, I wanted them to know it was me who spilled it. It's been 10 months since that crazy day. My divorce got finalized last week. I got a good chunk of money for how he neglected me and the kids, stressed me out pregnant, and put us at risk. I got part of the house too. I'd paid into it when we bought it. I gave Andrew 3 months to pay me my share, or it's going up for sale. Plus, I got child support. Here's the juicy part. After I talked to his sister's husband, she texted me, blaming me for wrecking her life. Word got back that he'd dug into their family's past. Turns out they weren't rich like they pretended, and she'd lied about a ton, even her job. Some nosy relatives said the Scots sent her packing and filed for divorce. They caught her sneaking cash from her in-laws to send to her mom. Her husband called her a gold digger. She'd already drained him for thousands while they dated. I'm sipping wine, enjoying the chatter. Here's to Andrew, his mom, and sister. Hope they enjoy gossiping their way through broke days.